Attention, everybody. The views expressed on this show are not necessarily those of Acts Ministry, Acts Media Group, and/or their affiliate and subordinate ministries and/or nonprofits. So, without any further ado, it's the premiere of his one-hour show. It's Brighter Living Live with your host Steve Mickey Mac McAllister and his wife and special guest. You guys may know him. I think his name is Tony or something like that. Anyways, take it away, guys.
Good morning. Good morning, YouTube. I didn't have to say Facebook because we are going YouTube, right? Is that correct, Matt? Okay. So I found my Rube on YouTube. That's an inside joke, folks. Anyway, I have Rachel here with me this morning. She's going to try to help me out here. And
here and there, I could do a little.
Yeah, and then our very special guest is going to be Tony Hammack from the New Gold Standard. That is correct, the correct name?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, we're going to chit-chat a little bit and tell people what's going on, and then we're going to go to commercial, and then we'll bring Tony on to talk to him about his show and what's going on in the money world. So, Rachel, you and I went on a little adventure yesterday. We went down to Harrison, and you got some historical information, didn't you?
I sure did. What would usually happen is that I remember my dad would take us on little road trips and things, and so yesterday I actually had the day off, which I usually don't have on Sundays. So we went to. I said, you know what? Let's go to Harrison, Arkansas. I want to go downtown and see what the old, city center's like. And we went there, and he kind of wanted me to. Well, Steve stayed in our vehicle, and I walked around the city center. It has the county courthouse and everything, and he kind of wanted me to share all the different things that I saw. They have a lot of memorials, like for the military. There's a World War I memorial bench, and they also have a larger memorial, for like the other wars, like World War II. Vietnam, Korea, and they have a honor triangle right in front of that people donated to have the names of those that served. It's obviously there's like I walked around the building, and here in this area, like Springfield and below, a lot of Civil War battles happened. So there's a Confederate memorial right there. In Harrison, and they actually had a couple plaques that describe the battle. So if you ever wondered what this area was like back then, you could kind of get an idea how far the actual situation happened. Right near there was a little Spanish-American War memorial, and so as you can tell, they have a lot of try to make it very honor bound right there. Because it's a typical you don't see many town squares really anymore. There's also a memorial for someone who won the Congressional Medal of Honor for serving on Iwo Jima. So they have a rock with his picture. And there was one thing that surprised me, actually. If you ever heard of the Mountain Meadows Massacre, it was a group of people that were on a wagon train, and they were heading to California. And what happened was that they were killed, turns out, on September 11th. It was 1857, I believe it was. And it turns out that... and I don't want to be, that some not only some Native American. It was kind of bizarre thing that happened, but it was actually Mormons. There were some Mormons that were involved in Native Americans, and it turns out it lasted for the situation for maybe 3 or 4 days, and what the Native Americans, they kind of attacked them at first, and they had their wagons turned around in a circle to protect everyone inside, and eventually they left. The Native Americans left, but they had some Mormon folks that came up, and so the group was called the Nauvoo, militia or something like that. And this is very controversial because a lot of people, they don't, it was so long ago, they don't know really what happened entirely, but they say that some of the militia came up and waved, a flag of surrender, like their peace mission, and they said that they started taking people, they were going to take people to nearby city because they were out in the middle of nowhere on the prairie and everything, and lived nearby town, and they were going to take them back. And what they say happened was that someone had said they separated the men, women, and children, and they started walking them back, and beside each man they had one of the militia with a gun, and they said that someone had said, "Gentlemen, do your duty," and they turned and each militia member shot the man next to them. And all ended up being their shot. 120 people were killed, and then they buried them, and no one knew for the longest time. And eventually, the military, or they had saved like 17 small children who were too young to tell what had happened, and they were placed in families. And so the military, this is before obviously Utah was a state, so the military went out and got the kids and brought them back to their families. But the reason why they have it there in Harrison, the memorial, is because a lot of the families were from that area, from that group. It's called Baker Fancher. And they brought, a lot of families, the families there from there built the memorial to memorialize their family members that passed. So I know that's very,
Wow, what history.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah, it was quite the adventure. We we like to go in different places, and Arkansas really has a lot of historical areas out there, and we we also have a lot of things coming up in Branson as well. Branson's doing what we call the musical theaters, where people transition and go to different theaters and that. So if you're coming down to Branson, be sure to check out the Branson.com or explorebranson.com and find out where all the new shows or the returning shows are going to be at, because there's quite a few of them that have switched theaters. So be sure and do that. We're going to go to a commercial. We're going to go to a commercial, and then we're going to be back with our guest, Tony Hammock.
Well, you guys threw me off there.
Sorry about that.
Hey, everybody, Matt here, not wearing a hat. So, yes, like Steve Schultz said earlier in the day, that most of my face is forehead, or most of my head is face, or something like that. I don't know how he said it. Anyways, this show, Brighter Living Live, is brought to you by naturalsolutionstore.bz. For those of you who don't know, have not checked this out, this place is really good. It's got all kinds of stuff on it. One of the things that I like to look at there, Super Hemp Balm. Super Hemp Balm is a salve that you put on your achy muscles, achy bones, head. If my buddy, if he's got a headache, he puts a little bit on his temple and it makes the headache go away. I know that whenever I had a really bad backache, I rubbed it on there just enough where you can see like your fingers are shiny from it, and rubbed it on my back. And 10 minutes later, my back quit hurting. So not only does it actually alleviate the pain, but I believe, as well as Jay, my counterpart here, we believe that it also helps your body to heal it as well, a lot easier than, if you were on any kind of hardcore narcotics or stuff like that. So if you're tired of taking a bunch of narcotics, talk to your doctor also about this. If narcotics or regular over-the-counter pain medication is not helping, give this stuff a try. You won't be disappointed. It comes in a 35 milliliter jar, and it works great. So if you want to do that, I would highly recommend it. So back to you guys.
Thank you, Matt. That I've got to get that Super Hemp Balm, for all the aches and pains that I've been through and going through. And Rachel, I think you need it for your headaches and.
Oh my goodness.
So in earaches. I don't know what.
I
Is
don't
there?
think you would put it in your ear.
No, I don't think. I don't. What can you do with super hemp balm for an earache?
I wouldn't recommend putting it in your ear that I'm
No.
aware of.
No.
I didn't think
it's
so.
not for internal use. Although, I mean, I used it on a toothache. But no, don't do what I did. That's what I did, and I did only. But yeah, it's not for internal use. It's for external use only.
Okay.
So for an earache, your best bet is probably, see your doctor and maybe get some ear drops or something.
Okay. That's good. Well, folks, we're back, and we've got a very special guest. You might know him if you watch X Radio or listen to radio, and watch. Well, now YouTube. You'll be seeing this young man. Hey, on Wednesdays at 10, right?
9.
9.
Yeah.
At 9 o'clock on Wednesdays. So we're going to talk to Tony Hammock, and he's what I call a financial guru, and you're a professional at that. And welcome, Tony.
Well, thanks for having me. This is a lot of fun.
Yeah, I appreciate that. This is the first time I've been able to interview you, but you know what? You speak a lot of financial language. Sometimes I don't get it, but hey, that's not me. I'd like to learn more, though. And so who is Tony Hammock anyway? Can you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Oh, gosh, where do I start? Well, my wife and I have 4 boys, and I've lived in Springfield since 1984. I've been in the financial services industry since 1981, and had to think there for a second, and have a lot of clients in the area. Used to call on advisors throughout the country, so for a long time I was kind of considered the advisor's advisor. And then from about 2012, fourth quarter 2012 on, I've been kind of more here in Greene County, Christian County, Greene County, Southwest Missouri.
Wow. So how did you get involved in this line of work?
Well, when I was still in college, I was going to San Jose State University there in California, and I decided I needed to have a better job than working at a gas station or something.
Right.
and so I. Between my junior and senior year, I got a job with Bank of America as a teller. And the branch I was in was San Jose, Maine, which was right downtown San Jose, California, right in the financial district. And I kept having these clients come in every week with their paychecks and make deposits. And after a while, you strike up a relationship with them, and I finally asked one guy, I said, "What do you do?" And he told me, and I said, "I like that. I think I could do that. I'm getting ready to graduate in May and stuff." And so he invited me to come over and interview with his branch manager, and I ended up getting into that part of the financial services industry about a year later.
Wow. So have you ever, actually, the New York Stock Exchange, that's pretty big right now. So have you been down there?
Oh, yeah.
And it's a sight to behold, huh?
Yeah, no, it's pretty neat. Now I was there before 9/11. In fact, a little funny story. I don't know if you can put funny in anything in that context with 9/11, but back in September of 2001, I was with Mass Mutual, and we had just had our 150 top agents, producers in for September 5th through 9th. And so on like the 5th, we all took a tour of the New York Stock Exchange, and we stayed at the Marriott that was there at the base of the Twin Towers. And
oh, wow.
I just remember it was gorgeous. I had to take a bunch of people up to one of the floors up top, on the very top of one of the buildings, for viewing. And it was just gorgeous. And, we all checked out. Most of us checked out Sunday morning, which must have been the 9th. And headed home. We had one couple that extended and apparently had just checked out before the first plane hit and stuff like that. So,
Wow.
yeah, I've been to the New York Stock Exchange, and it was a close call.
Yeah, that's called, talk about a close call. So did you have a question?
Yeah. Kind of rearrange that around. we work with a lot of kids, and I kind of want to know when do you think is the best time or age for a parent to get their child a bank account? Because obviously kids really need to start learning how that works.
Well, I think the minute you can get them a Social Security number, I mean, they get born that first week, you're kind of getting organized and stuff like that. But I think you need to file for, personally, that's what we've done with our boys, is get them a Social Security number right away. And because, you can't open a savings account or anything without a Social Security number. Right. So once you get the Social Security number, I don't see any reason why you couldn't start a savings account, because they're going to get all kinds of little, gifts from parents and family and all that kind of stuff. And you can just kind of keep dumping it in their savings account as they get older and stuff. But, it's funny. We've got 4 boys, and it seems like for us, somewhere around 10, 11, 12, they really start to, pay attention to money. And it's part of it's because they're getting an allowance and they've got a wallet. Like the other day, our youngest, Luke, who was on the show, my show, a couple weeks ago, because Springfield had a snow day. But I'd had a couple of chores I wanted him to do that were kind of above and beyond the Call of Duty. And I told him, I said, I'll pay you, $5 per chore. So he got those completed, and of course he was right there. Okay, Dad, where's my $10?
Yeah.
and in fact, he tried to work it into 15, which is,
right.
is a whole other story. But so I ended up getting him a $10 bill, and then he was just kind of running around with it for a while and stuff. And finally I was like, okay, so Luke, you want to put that away. You want to get that in one of your pockets, and preferably you want to get it in your wallet when we get home. And so, there's a little training, a little education that goes along with that. But I guess, long-winded answer to a short question, I would get a Social Security number the minute they're born. And then, as they start to pay attention and stuff like that, then, go ahead and start getting them some education on the benefits of saving money.
Yeah, because, I had a piggy bank. I've had the Tootsie Roll Bank, and I've had it when I was a kid. And, it's hard as a kid to save money when you know that there's a lot of, nowadays, there's a lot of temptation. What's the best advice for parents to tell their kids, Christmas is coming up, your birthday's coming up, you need to save money, and what's the best route to go?
Well, we try to employ kind of, okay, you want that so bad, let's wait 30 days. And if you still want it that bad in 30 days, let's make it happen. And it's funny how 30 days later, they're on to something else and stuff like that. I mean, it doesn't always work. It's not a perfect science, with grandmas and even Lorna sometimes, is funny because she likes to get things online, and all of a sudden, if there's a sale, she'll snag something, and we get all these parcels from Amazon and UPS and stuff like that. But for the for the most part in our house, what we say is from October 1st on, nobody gets anything, because if we did, there wouldn't be anything under the tree.
Right.
And we try to, if somebody all of a sudden decides, we have to have the newest Nintendo thing, or we need to have the newest skateboard, or something like that, we try to say, okay, well, let's wait a month and let's just see if that's still something you want. If you want it that bad, then we'll take and see about finding the best deal for it.
Yeah, I guess there's books out there too, whether they're at the library, the bookstore. What do you recommend?
As far as books?
Yeah, as far as books, without, saying a whole lot, because we got to be careful of, maybe naming books, but you can go ahead and tell us.
Well, I mean, there's a plethora of books that are out there about, trying to teach kids how to manage money and stuff like that. I mean, what I would do is I would just go to Amazon and plug in, money for kids or educating kids about money. And, like I said, there's a plethora of choices that'll pop up and stuff. Some are better than others and everything. I mean, really, when it comes right down to it, the Bible's pretty darn good.
Exactly.
So that's why in my show on Wednesday mornings, I try to have a stewardship course each week as part of the show, just because sometimes there's little kernels of knowledge in there that really make sense for all of us, especially kids.
Right. So for adults, is there any financial classes that are in the area, do you know of, that can be taken to help financial planning?
Well, Dave Ramsey has a lot of educational courses that they try to partner up with the church, and those are usually pretty informative and stuff. I know that I'm talking right now to a company that is a not-for-profit that has a course for educating folks on things like Social Security and Medicare and IRAs and required minimum distributions and all those different topics that come up and stuff. And we're in the final stages of putting that together, and I'll probably do those at the Library Center down there on South Campbell. But I don't think Springfield's or Southwest Missouri is probably at a loss for things like that. I know in the mail, it seems like every week I get 4 or 5 invitations from people that are putting on dinner someplace. Now let's be really straightforward with some of those. Most of those are situations where what they're trying to do is get you come in and sit through their presentation, and then it's a real subtle way of trying to sell you something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we've been through that.
Oh yeah, and I mean
Yeah.
I've done that. I mean I've been in the securities and financial services industry for 30 some years now, and that's one of the ways that you try and get some new relationships established and stuff. And sometimes they work out beautifully because, let's face it, there's a lot of misinformation out there. There's a lot of talking heads on TV. Everybody's got an agenda. It always cracks me up, not to get off into the weeds here, but it always cracks me up how some people get lured in with, this thought that someone's going to do something for nothing. And I'm here to tell you that, especially in the financial services industry, that's just not the case. Even your banks, they say they're not charging you a fee for a savings account, but then they're only paying 45 basis points or 30 basis points. So you got to think, is that really a good deal? Anyway, I probably should stop there because you get me going in that area, and it's one of those areas.
Well, I'm sure there's people out there that know what you're talking
Yeah.
about. I'm and I need to be educated myself, and I think that's where education classes come in as far as that's concerned. Is people do need to know the basics and what you're going. Sometimes they need advanced classes, sometimes they need basics. But you're good.
Yeah. No, there's we're not at a loss for information. Now with the internet, there again, like I said, for book ideas, I'd just go to Amazon and plug the topic in, and a bunch of stuff will pop up and everything. But I think it's important to educate the children, because really by the time they get to be high school age, there's no telling how much money's gone through their fingers just because of, like I said, the gifts and the allowances and different things like that. And if you can teach a child that money can make money, that's the whole thing. The power of compounding is incredible. Mm-hmm. And I was talking to Luke the other day about this, when we were going over this $10 bill thing. And I was telling him, I said, you get this invested with the other stuff you've got, because he's got a little coin collection and stuff. And then all of a sudden, this starts making money for you. And he's like, what? And I said, yeah, you could be sleeping, in the middle of the night, and this is earning interest. And so it's kind of one of those eye-opening experiences for them to understand that, that's one of the reasons you want to save money is because money can work for you.
Right. And what are the rules? There's a lot of things out there now, network marketing companies that want to charge you above and beyond what what's the word? They overcharge you and things like that. And what are some of the money scares that people need to be aware of when it comes to network marketing and things like that? Because that it's not free.
Well, it's not free, and my answer may surprise you because I am somewhat of a fan of network marketing. I like to call it direct sales, and
Mm-hmm.
When you look at the United States, I don't know how many billions of dollars a year are done in direct sales. Let's put it this way: Warren Buffett, who's the richest guy in the country, maybe the world, if you eliminate some of those princes and stuff over there in the Mideast, but several of his largest holdings are companies that have direct marketing distribution plans. So that by itself is not necessarily, negative, but a lot of times, and more to your point, the products. Here's what I usually do. I look at, like, if somebody's got a hemp balm or something, and it's a network marketing company and it's $50, I'll go online and I'll kind of try and find apples to apples comparisons and see what they're going for. And so if it's $50 through that, it may be $19.95 through eBay or Amazon or Walgreens or something like that. And then, it's common sense. Okay, so what's the difference? Well, it's because they have to pay for all those distribution channel parts. There's somebody above that person and above that person. And now, every once in a while, you'll find ones where it's not that extreme. And those are the ones that are a little bit more, make sense. They've got a product that's necessary or vital. They've got a fair distribution concept, and they're not trying to, charge 400% more than the item is worth. So it's kind of it's almost a case by case. I mean, you really have to get in and decide, is this a product I need, and how much am I willing to pay for it? Am I paying a premium from getting it from here versus Walgreens or CVS or Sam's or something like that? And if it all kind of works out, then, I'd be for doing business with the direct salesperson.
Good.
I actually have a question I want to ask you. It has nothing to...
It's okay. It's okay.
There are a lot of people like now that they look at, all this, they look at it as capitalism, and that, the only thing that people, they want to do with the money, I don't really I don't believe this, but they look at that, like with Wall Street and everything, that the focus that people have just on making money. What do you think that's really? I mean, a lot of people really, they donate to their. Am I making any sense?
I don't know. Is it making any sense?
Well, one of the most recent lessons we went through on my show from that stewardship course was, the nature of money. Is money the root of all evil? Which, we've always heard. And the stewardship course was saying, no, it's not. I mean, money is neutral, essentially. I mean, money's money. At this point, we've got fiat currency, which is the U.S. dollar for us. The government has said it's worth something, so therefore we use it to buy goods and services. And the reason it's fiat, they call it, is because there's nothing backing it up. We've been off the gold standard since 1971 when President Nixon took us off the gold standard. So, there's a whole conversation right there as far as why has the dollar lost 95% of its purchasing power and all these other kinds of things and stuff. So, the root of money is really neutral. Now, if your whole purpose in life, if you basically, it's like if you worship money, what the Bible says about worshiping false gods and so forth like that, then that's not going to be good. But if you look at money and try to keep it in context to where you can do some good things with it, there's a lot of very wealthy people out there that, they were fortunate to have created XYZ company or been in the right place at the right time, but they're also very good at philanthropy and all those kinds of things. You look at Bill and Melinda Gates. The Gates Foundation, they give millions of dollars away every year to different foundations and charities and stuff for different really, really good purposes. So, it's kind of a long-winded answer here again. You'll find I'm really good with the long-winded answers. But,
that's all right.
I think that money is one of those things, it kind of depends on the person. And if the person's got the right intentions, I think that they can turn money into a very, very, very valuable thing as far as sharing it with other folks and all those kinds of contributions they can make. If they're just wanting to sit back and hoard it and go, and get to be like, Ebenezer Scrooge or something, and then it's probably not really what God intended.
No.
Right, exactly. So what is the latest on Dow Jones? Can you give us a reading?
Sure. Well, the market's closed today because of President's Day.
Oh, that's right.
But as far as Friday's close, the Dow closed at 29,398.08. And so it was down like 25 points on Friday and stuff like that. So Yeah, the Dow has had quite a run ever since Trump got into to office. I mean, December of 18, it had kind of a little scare there and stuff, but it is at one of its highest points ever.
Yeah. Do you see it getting to that 30,000 mark?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I learned a long time ago. I mean, I got in the business back in 1981, like I said, and I learned real quick. Nobody knows. I mean, and that's the thing. And if anybody says they know, you want to run and run fast, because I can tell you, not even the talking heads on TV, Jim what's his name on CNBC, and they just don't know, because there's parts of the market that are hard to quantify. Now, there's people that track the market from a technical basis, and they can say, okay, well, right now we're at 29,000 plus, and the price earnings ratio is this, and the advances versus declines that, and they can come up with 15 different ways to tell you that, oh, we think the market's going to go higher. But in fact, if the coronavirus, all of a sudden shuts down all the supply lines and stuff, and you've got companies that can't get the materials they need to make products, what's going to happen?
Yeah.
All of a sudden they're not making products, they're not getting them to market, they're not getting sales, and if they're not getting sales, they're not getting earnings. And when it comes to the stock market, I mean, I will say this, when it comes to the stock market, there's two schools of thought. One school of thought is growth stocks, and that is where you're looking for earnings, you're looking for growth, you're wanting some company that's, this year their earnings are $1 a share, next year it's $1.50. I mean, you've got to have ever increasing earnings and very little, if any, dividends and stuff. And then the other school of thought is what they call value investing, and that's where you've got, excuse me, that's where you've got companies that might be out of favor for whatever reason. Boeing would be a great example right now. Boeing is way out of favor because of the 737 crisis and, that whole thing that's going on. I will tell you this, there's a lot of people that are looking at Boeing as a value play, because obviously they're a very good company. They've had this unfortunate experience, and the price of Boeing is way lower than it's ever been. So there's a lot of folks that go with the value investing. And really, if you look at it over time, which one wins? Well, at any given time, one can be a little bit ahead of the other. But most of the most prolific investors, Benjamin Graham's, the Warren Buffetts, the John Templetons, and I can go on and name more folks that probably you've read about in the papers and stuff like that. Most of those people are value investors. What they're looking at is what am I getting for the dollar I'm willing to invest? And if it makes sense and they're not overpaying, that's the thing that's going on with Wall Street right now, which gets me up at night, is some of these companies don't have increasing earnings, but yet the public is paying ever higher prices to get it. And you've got this you've got a couple of things going on with the market right now, in my opinion. There is the fear of missing out, FOMO, I think it's called. And, so there's people that are afraid, oh gosh, if I don't get, Cisco, or if I don't get Amazon, or if I don't get Apple computer, I'm going to miss out on the next run. Mm-hmm. And that really relates more to fear and greed. I mean, when it comes right down to it, it's fear and greed that most people have to deal with when they're making these decisions on if they want to buy or sell a stock. And one of the things that I heard a long time ago, back when I first got in the business, I was at a big conference in Denver, I believe it was, and Peter Lynch, who some of you in the audience may remember the name, he used to manage the Fidelity Magellan Fund. And back in the 70s and the 80s, I mean, he was very good. He usually had the best performing fund and stuff like that. But at this conference, he made the comment that they had done statistical study at Fidelity, and 85% of the people that had been shareholders of the Fidelity Magellan Fund had lost money. Everybody in the audience was like, how can that be? It was incredibly higher than it had ever been and all this kind of stuff. He says, well, it's simple. He goes, most people read the newspapers and the magazines that come out. Back then there was Money Magazine and Smart Money and, all these others and stuff, and they'd have on the cover, the one fund you want to buy this year is Fidelity Magellan. Well, they were looking at trailing performance, and past performance is never indicative of future performance. But they'd be looking at, okay, the last year it was up 58%, so it's the number one fund to buy now. Well, guess what? If it was number one last year, what's the odds it's going to be number one again? But the folks jump in, and then now it starts to have, possibly a correction. Maybe it's not as in favor of it was. I mean, there's just a lot of different variables. And then, the fear and greed sets in, and it's going down, as far as the share price, and they get down to about here. And this is where most people should be buying. You've heard